You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Thad, and joining me is my co-host, Chrissy. How are you today?
I'm all right. I get the distinct feeling that something is going on with younger people that I have no idea about. And it's not the usual feeling that I have like that.
I was going to say.
This is something more than just, I don't know that piece of music. Yeah, no. And how are you doing today, Thad?
I'm all right. I'm looking around my house and at these hardwood floors and thinking I really miss carpet.
I can understand that.
Also joining us today is Abby Sommer from the First Flight podcast. Before we jump into our topic for the day, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make our show possible, particularly our associate producers, Carl Wonders and Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10 at patreon.com/BQN. And with a monthly Patreon subscription of just $5, you can join our meetings at the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Watch your Patreon messages for details. So, we have the penultimate episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3.
Excellent use of penultimate.
I don't know, I guess there were a couple things that happened this week.
Just a few.
Kind of a sleepy episode, really. Abby, what are your overall thoughts of this episode?
This was a lot, and it was not the longest episode of the season, which was kind of amazing. And I've rewatched it multiple times since then, and I just keep thinking to myself, wow, there's a lot going on in here. And I feel like when you're reading the end of a trilogy of books and you're halfway through the last book and you're like, oh, it's all starting to come together and look at this. And I don't agree with all the choices, but who knows? Because we still have to see the ending. So I feel like I've exhaled half my breath, but then re-inhaled again, because I feel like some of the things went exactly how I wanted and some of the things were absolutely perfect. And now I'm just like, wait, you can't stop it there. Come on, I need to know the rest so I can frame all of these things that I'm going, well, maybe, because I've heard so many people say, and creatives involved, this is a very satisfying last episode. The finale is wonderful. You will get what you want. So I'm like, okay, I'm believing the people in charge because I like what they do. But overall, I loved it, but it does feel like I cut off a limb waiting for this next one.
Yeah. I am also trusting that they will give me something satisfying for the ending. At the same time, I am cognizant that this is the third time Picard has had a season finale, and the first two times I was also hopeful they would give me a satisfying ending, so we'll see.
This one's different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This whole season has been better, and I actually didn't completely hate the ending of Season 1. Actually, I thought the final episode of Season 1 was a lot better than the second to last episode of Season 1. But I definitely was not a fan of the ending of Season 2, which, as far as I can tell based on this episode, neither were the people making Season 3, because there's no mention whatsoever of those Borg.
Yeah, and in fact, I have seen people talking on Twitter about it, and I forget if it was Dave Glass or Terry Vitalis said, no, that Borg has a different story. So it's like, yep. Okay. Because I thought for a bit, while I was watching this, that maybe that was the great threat that they were going to watch out for and protect the Federation from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and my dad, who just binged, he got me into Star Trek when I was little, just binged the first two seasons and up to this one to catch up to me because I was so effusive about it. I'm like, Dad, I want to talk to you about this. Come on. And his first thing that he said to me after this one was, oh, well, we didn't see the face because it's Girardi. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not Girardi, Dad, because that was a whole different, like, this, that, and the other, and he's like, oh, well, that would have been cool. And he's that kind of fan that he's fine with that. But, yeah, there's a lot of interesting Borginess all around. But I'm thinking they're off guarding whatever that other thing is, but maybe they'll be one of those short form ones that they're coming up to, you know?
I think it was Dave Blass that said this, but it could have been Terry. They both say a lot of the same things. But he said that, yeah, the Agnes's Borg are not involved with this at all. They're off doing that thing, guarding that transwarp thing, and they will not be involved in this season.
Yeah, but they do lie, too. So that's what everybody's response always is they flat out lied. Like, I mean, I think you were in the same auditorium as I was when Will Wheaton lied to us last April.
Yes,
so
all three of us were. Yep.
Lied to our face.
We were all there. Just like, oh, okay. Will Wheaton. I've never been so happy to have been lied to. So,
which is why I also wonder that he has flat out said he's not in this season.
Yeah.
But
well, at least Wesley got mentioned this time. So,
yes,
he's around.
Well, this is mentioned a couple times, actually, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, anyway, before we get too far, Chrissy, what do you think this week?
So we are in serious TNG era vibe, all of that, obviously, with the Enterprise D. But, and I think, I'm not going to say more importantly, but maybe on a different level, the Borg have been reclawed, okay? People talk about how Voyager declawed the Borg, and they weren't scary anymore. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. They've been screwing with us the whole time. That's scary. They got their claws back, and I love that. Because the Borg is so scary, and it's supposed to be just this insurmountable enemy that is going to destroy everything about who you are. Even the changelings didn't want to necessarily do that, right? But then, we get to know some people who end up being individuals in the Borg, and they're less scary. No, not anymore. So, I like it. It was good.
I'm not sure how I feel about the Borg. I don't know that I like the idea of the Borg working behind the scenes, rather than just doing their whole assimilation, which is what they're so much known for. I really am not sure how I feel about them working with non-Borg to achieve their ends.
The connection with the changelings, I am not sure how that's going to fall out. I don't understand what would have connected them in the first place, how they each destroy the other. Yeah.
I'm hoping this is one of the big threads that we get picked up in 10. And I'm hoping, if we're jumping into Borgy stuff here, I think that it's one of those things we always were wondering, if the changelings and the Borg met each other, who wins? How do they win? If the Borg assimilate the changelings, like, how does that work? Like, kind of stuff. But then I've been thinking a lot about why we didn't see the Borg Queen's face in this one, right? And okay, there's a bazillion million theories out there, but what if it's because the Borg have absorbed the altered changelings' differentness so that they can hold form differently to be able to do that, and the Borg Queen's face can be whoever would be the most devastating for you. Like, Jack could look at the Borg Queen and see Beverly, and Beverly could look at the Borg Queen and see whoever, like her grandmother, hopefully not, she's anaphased, but but whoever it is,
Wesley. Wesley or Jack.
Whoever it would be that would be the most devastating and scary for you, the Borg Queen now has the ability to changeling morph into that and hold that enough because of the altered changelings. Like, that's an even scarier thing, because then it's a personalized Borg Queen, and that's a whole different ball of wax. Like, think about all the times we've seen the other changelings go through, and like when they morphed into dead looking Riker. That's horrible. That's a gut punch. Could you imagine having to face the Borg Queen and have it be somebody who you cared so deeply about? That's something. I never thought that Voyager took the teeth out of the Borg. I think explanations sometimes make things scarier, because when you can see why they're doing it and how they're doing it, that is scary. And I like the idea of the Borg working behind the scenes for a really long time, because they have gone up against Starfleet a few times and it hasn't turned out real spectacular for them. So now they're trying a different way. They've absorbed a lot more species that have interacted with humans. They have a lot more ideas.
And they have all the time in the world.
Right. And maybe they've done this before. I mean, we've had other Starfleet people who've been, all the XBs, even some of our main cast, if they all have this dormant little gene in them somewhere. I mean, B'Elanna was assimilated. She had Maral. Is Maral have... there's a lot going...
Yeah. I was gonna bring that up if you didn't.
Well, Maral's been through a Federation transporter.
Yeah.
But beyond that, Maral may have the transmitter that Jack has, because B'Elanna was assimilated, so Maral might be able to control them too.
Correct.
Oh, maybe we'll run into a number of different people. See if they hadn't killed Icheb.
Well, also, we're gonna find out that maybe the Borg Queen is actually Seven and Chakotay's love child.
Okay, nobody can see the faces that came with that one, but the look of horror and disgust was just like, ugh, no.
Nope.
That's going past the end of my list of no.
Yeah. I'm going to refer back to our conversation about whether or not the Borg sterilize the children. And in this case, hope that it's true.
Oh, man.
I hadn't thought about the fact that these evolved, adapted, whatever changelings actually have a solid form that they can maintain. So that gives the Borg something to assimilate.
Right,
because
where it hadn't been there before.
What are you going to assimilate with goo?
Okay, but on the same token, where does Odo's comm badge go when he turns into goo?
I always assumed that he created that. Honestly. That he had the capacity to duplicate the mechanics of that.
And even the electronic impulses and stuff?
Well,
everything
seems... in the body is, that is electronic impulses from cell to cell. And
fair.
So if a changeling was hiding as a tricorder on a desk, you could pick up the changeling tricorder and actually scan something? Or he would have to they would have to ungoo themselves because they're like, oops, I'm not actually a functional tricorder. This opens up a world of possibilities.
Even better. A changeling tricorder could show you the readings the changeling wanted to show you.
But that's a lot more complicated than a comm badge, too. But yeah, it could show you just whatever it wanted. I don't know. We know that they can become inanimate objects, certainly.
And the density has never been an issue we talk about, so...
so can they create mechanisms? They can create biological mechanisms. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the Borg could probably assimilate a changeling if they really worked at it.
They have, as I said, all the time in the world, all the time figured out.
So this brought back some... I'm gonna mention Star Trek novels again.
Yes.
This brought back some thoughts of the very first Voyager relaunch novels, Homecoming and The Farther Shore, which part of the novels deal with Voyager coming home and the crew doing stuff, but another part of it, and another part of them have to deal with holographic uprising, and then a third part, because they had that two-part series had an A, B, and C plot, also dealt with a secret Borg Queen that was slowly assimilating all of Starfleet.
I had forgotten about that. It's been a long time since I read.
It's been a really long time since I read those too. Huh.
Yeah, same here. I don't fully remember all the specifics now, but I remember that it was a thing where they were slowly they had made assimilation airborne, I think, and it was only affecting children and the really old, people with lowered immune systems, or something.
Influenza.
Yes, but
not to make fun of influenza.
A similar influenza.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that this makes me think about that a little bit, because sort of similar where there's this Borg Queen that's slowly infiltrating all of Starfleet without us knowing about it.
Yeah.
That's the scariest part of all of this. And like the way that Geordi says that, they've been assimilating the entire fleet the entire time and nobody knows, like the gravity in the way that LeVar Burton says that when it's like sinking into all of them, that's like an absolute oh crap moment. Like, yeah, this is a whole different problem than we thought it was. And that's really interesting. And that's why, I mean, we can sit here and theorize a million years about what's going to happen on Thursday. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be wrong because, I mean, even if we get some of the parts right, they have done so many things that have just been different enough, but that fit pieces together that you never would have thought or add one little detail. I think that's what's coming. I think there's one more twist or one more something. And I think, well, okay, talking about Jack and his place in the Borg, if we could jump there for a second, because we're talking about how the Borg are scary, and like this really made them scary again, and that's true. But Jack is pissed, and rightfully so. He has every right in the galaxy to be pissed about what is going on with him now, because none of this was of his own control or his own choice. But I think it's really interesting where when he's doing that whole monologue with Picard and he's talking about how I can feel, I care about stuff, how is that going to impact this? How much of me is me? And none of those questions are answered, but they're all thrown out there. And I feel like that's what this season has done a lot of. Throwing out little things that could be something or just, well, we don't know about this yet, but we'll get back to it. And then pulling it together in a way you don't expect, like taking 2 or 3 of those and pulling them together. So I mean, he knew he was going to get assimilated. Like if he went over to that Borg ship, killed the Queen, great. But I think he knew it was a 99.9% chance he was getting assimilated. I think he thinks he can go in there and with his emotions and his caring, go in a back way and change all this. And is that going to make the Borg scarier or less scary? Is that going to be the end of him and the Queen or not? Like there's obviously a big pinnacle coming, and I don't think I'm cool enough to predict it, and I can predict a lot of stuff.
I don't think he did know he was going to be assimilated. I think up until the moment when he didn't do it, I think he did think he was going to shoot and kill the Queen.
But how would you think? Yeah. How would you think you would go on a Borg ship where she's got force fields and drones and all this by yourself with one little handgun, and you're going to get to her? Like even though he has this connection,
because he knows that they want him.
He's 22. He doesn't know anything.
I thought he's 25. I think.
I thought they said he was 22, 20. Well, whatever.
Either way,
he's still in that mindset where his, how does Beverly put it? The frontal cortex is not finished yet, so.
Yeah.
No offense to any 20-somethings out there. I'm just saying we've all done dumb things.
Oh, yeah. So, no, but also he knows that the Borg want him. He knows that they've been searching for him. Yeah. So he knows that if he goes to the Borg, they're going to take him to see the Queen.
Yeah, like he tried to give himself over to Vadic. And I think this is, in part, he's hoping to end the danger.
Mm-hmm. But I think at this point he's mad enough and he's going with that anger, which, may I add, is something that his father would have done in his youth exactly the same way. So when you say that you...
And did sometimes in his later adulthood.
Yes. Exactly. This is a very Jean-Luc moment in Jack, and it's interesting because you see, and we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, but like both parts of the Beverly and Jean-Luc in there with him, but Jack is running from his mad, which is not the most rational. And like that scene where he's walking away from Beverly and he says he's going home and he's going to show her who he is. I think he planned on going in and blowing it up from the inside. Like,
I think so too.
I really think that's where he's going with this. And I don't know if it's going to go the way he thinks it's going to go.
It already hasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does it ever with Borg?
No.
So one thing I found interesting is the Borg complex he goes to is clearly in a state of disrepair.
Or is it a giant, like, Borg mall? It looked like a city or a destruction. I couldn't tell.
Jay called it the Borg aircraft carrier. I just thought it was a massive complex.
Like, it just looked like from the outside, it looked like there were parts of it missing, and inside, obviously, there was just stuff everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the aesthetic. Think about Nero's ship.
Yeah.
There's water on the floor for no reason.
I was more thinking the outside, especially though, looked like
It was lumpy.
Looked like a crumbling Borg ruin.
There were blocks sticking out and areas where blocks should be. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Now, see, I just took that as a design change. Interesting.
See, and I was thinking about it more like it's like a mall, as someone who grew up in the 80s. That the Borg, whatever that is, that complex with the antennas and the corners and like the chunks out of it is like the hallways or the connector pieces. And then Borg cubes come in like Legos kind of and piece themselves in and put it together. And then you can have an even bigger ship that's made up of a bunch of smaller cubes. And that's what all the radio antennas were for. Well, not radio antennas, but whatever those things sticking up the top. And I also thought because the nebula or the cloud or whatever they're in is so thick that you couldn't see how deep it was. You were only seeing a portion of it. You could see it was long as opposed to cubular. So I don't know what that is, but it's not. It's not what you would expect. It wasn't just the one cube that Deanna saw when she opened the door. It was something even more than that. So that's not good.
The one cube had the stick out parts too. So, which doesn't mean that they're not all in disrepair. It's entirely possible. Yeah. I can see where you're coming from.
And I think I'm thinking that because I read the Trek Core review and they speculated that it was still damaged from the virus that Janeway put in them.
Well, and if you were a damaged Borg, a long-term stealthy plan to let you kind of rebuild while this all takes place is not a bad strategy. And for all the strategists, I'm sure they've assimilated, this might have had the highest probability of working.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I'm the downer on this episode, but I actually really did enjoy it. I'm also kind of disturbed by the philosophical implications of using the same base pattern for every person in the transporter and just adding the tiny little differences. Yeah. Are you really you if most of your pattern is actually some other human that was scanned 100 years ago?
I mean, now we're not even asking, does the transporter kill you and recreate you every time? Now it's, does the transporter kill you and recreate you every time you now have somebody else's genetic code?
Yeah.
See, what I was thinking was, and this is all headcanon right here. So, you've got the transporter generic, human male, right? And it's got, this is what it normally is. And then the transporter does a scan of whoever they're going to transport and, puts them on top of each other. And the things that are different, it tweaks. But it doesn't have to do the majority of the work if, your liver is all the same as everybody else. It just kind of imprints the specific on the basic. If you're going to Build-A-Bear and it's got, bodies and heads and legs, but then you do all the fine-tuning. I just compared people transporting to a Build-A-Bear. That's terrible.
I love that analogy, and it actually is a sound analogy.
Okay,
it really is.
But yeah, that was a little bit I think I need more explanation on this. Can we have a supplement to the technical manual, please? Because,
And see, that's the thing, too, is what... It keeps some elements of this code. Is the code just if the person who's going in here is humanoid, they'll have a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs, unless otherwise specified. And if that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, where it's just going to make an assumption and then overwrite as needed, I can kind of see that, but it still is troubling that you are then able to use it to apply somebody else's or just an inserted genetic code. Because,
yeah. And at this point, it becomes genetic engineering.
Well,
that's been a
Borg
theme
do not
of
have any
Star
laws
Trek.
about that. So,
you could use the transporter to make yourself taller, or
Well, but we've already think about how much medical shenanigans we've done with transporter, right? I mean, Rascal.
Yeah.
Bringing back Pulaski to her
unnatural selection.
Yeah. So the transporter was invented because they didn't have enough money to build a shuttle, and everything that's ever happened with the transporter since has been equally story related.
That's fair. I mean, I say a lot on my own podcast. There are some things in Trek that you just hand wave away and say they'll either get to explaining it at some point or it's just part of the story and I love the story, so I'm going to just push that over. But you're right, Thad. You're 100% right. And I can't imagine anyone watching that scene and not going, wait, what? A little bit in there, and not just because of the revelation of Jack, but wait, what? Transporter?
So, like, it really adds to the whole endless debate about whether or not the transporter really kills you or not. And it does make the TNG episode Realm of Fear, where we see that people are conscious during the transport process, seem even less plausible.
Well, we don't know when this started to be a thing, other than sometime within the last 25 years.
We don't know when that's true. The way they say it, it sounds like the transporters always worked this way. I mean, the Borg code hasn't been there the whole time. Right. But it's possible that, no, it's a relatively new process. So maybe, so people didn't start dying and being recreated as someone else in the transporter until recently. So
here's something that I was pondering about this, okay? When we're talking about Foundation Day, but it applies here too, okay?
Frontier Day.
Frontier Day, not fun. Sorry.
Foundation's a different sci-fi series.
It is entirely. You know what the problem with this is? Just a little aside here, because we're good at those. Frontier Day. I hear Frontier Day, and what that means to me is the 2-week rodeo and stock show and all of the events around Frontier Days in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
See, and I thought we were going back to Laura Ingalls Wilder like we have in the past, the three of us.
Yes. I mean, they weren't that far from Cheyenne, but they didn't even do it. That was going on while she was alive. But yeah, I mean, like...
They were pretty far from Cheyenne.
Relatively speaking?
Well, in pioneer terms, they were pretty far from Cheyenne.
Yeah, okay.
In modern terms, not so far from Cheyenne.
I think that this celebration of Frontier Day in this particular way, and also for the idea of hooking all of the ships together, okay, and now just as we were talking about the transporter, I think this is one of these things too. I think all of those happened because of changelings that had infiltrated Starfleet. I don't think any of those came out of stuff that Starfleet did. So if we can assume that's the case, then they specifically reworked the transporter to be able to do that, to carry out their plan. We have no evidence of this. This is my headcanon. But
so the transporter didn't do the standard humanoid body buffer thing until the changelings added that so they could do this. Okay.
Right. I think, headcanon.
Okay.
Well, and I think what's interesting too, Chrissy, with your point is I think that you're right. A lot of this Frontier Day being such a huge thing and the full automation and all that. I mean, we saw what happened with the living construct at the end of Prodigy, which I think very much resonates to here. And I know that Aaron Walkie Online has been saying, don't worry, we all talk to each other. Everybody just breathe. So they know that there's a reason that these are similar-ish. But I think when you look through everybody, now granted, I'm going to say everybody that we love, Riker, Worf, Picard, they all think that this automation, this is a bad idea. So there's people out there who are naysayers. Like the way that Worf, when they're looking at the console and there's the big picture of all the ships lined up and he goes, it is Frontier Day. And just the way he says it, there's so many people out there like that. So I think you're right. The people who pushed this through probably were changelings. The people who started this, they were changelings. We know how high up poor Tuvok is out there somewhere. And if we don't see real Tuvok and rescue him, or he doesn't put Jack's mind back together like he did for Seven or whatever in this next episode, I am rioting because I love Tuvok beyond all measure. And thank you, Tim Russ, for accidentally telling us you're in 2 episodes, so I can really hold out hope for that. But I think you're right. I think they infiltrated the highest places and some of the lowest places to make this happen. I don't think it would have happened if it had not been for the changelings in there pushing it. Which brings up the whole question of, is Shelby actually a changeling?
Well, see, that's what I thought too. I have written on my notes, that's not Shelby.
If Shelby hadn't been, Yeah,
if she hadn't been killed, then I would think,
But we've seen the Borg who are coming after them take a couple shots like that and keep going. So if she was like Borg fortified high up super changeling, maybe, I mean, I think she's dead too, but I think that if they really wanted to make her not dead, that she would come. I'm pretty sure she's dead, because after watching the Ready Room, it seems like the actress is playing this with a finality that it would be impressive if she was just lying to us like that.
Yeah. But yeah, she reacts with a "what are you doing?" Not like a not react. So, but I'll give you plausible deniability and all that. You get rid of some of the people who might allow others to figure out what's actually going on. So either way, I guess it's possible. I think Frontier Day was probably a thing before. I mean, we humans like to celebrate stuff, but I think the idea of pulling in. Has anybody done a count on how many ships there were there?
A lot.
And we have no idea what the actual makeup of Starfleet is in terms of how many ships they have. But I mean, this is just. It is asking for bad things to happen elsewhere that they would otherwise care about, except for the fact that the Borg and the Changelings have told them not to worry about it, right? Unless Starfleet consists of, 50,000 ships, and then they just brought in these ones because they were close by and important.
No, they've frequently said all the fleet or most of the fleet, so I think it is really most of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Also, if they're gonna not have killed someone we saw killed in this episode, I'd much rather it be Shaw than Shelby.
Agreed. 8 weeks ago, I wanted him thrown out of an airlock. And now, I want him back.
It was a great scene.
Oh, he did a beautiful job with that.
Well, and I think what a nice character arc. And if this is the end for him, and if, Raffi and Seven are not going to do something miraculous with nanoprobes or something, but man, do you think Shaw actually wants to be revived with nanoprobes? Like, this man has had a traumatic history of the Borg. Come on. Like, if he wakes up and you're like, hey, you're alive, thanks Seven's nanoprobes, he might be like, maybe not. But what a nice character arc, and what kudos that Todd Stashwick deserves for making us first just hate him and now absolutely love to hate him, and then just love him. Like that, and not with the maximum amount of screen time of any character in this series. Like, he's a new player, and he's going to go down as one of the greats. That was an amazing performance. And if that is truly the end of it, it is a beautiful way to come full circle, and for him to have that survivor's guilt from Wolf 359 finally lifted. But I also hope they revive him somehow. I mean, they do it on Lower Decks all the time, right?
We'll take him to...
He just has to go to the Black Mountain,
See the koala
Tahiti
world?
is like they called it in Marvel. Yeah.
It's a magical place.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen the faux poster that was going around for a search for Shaw? Where it's the tagline on it is something like, he hated the Borg, now a Borg is his only hope, or something like that. And I just love that, and I want them to do that.
Yes, same. I think all of us want additional things with Shaw. We all want a show, a Titan show with Shaw and Seven at this point. And if you don't, well, I feel sorry for you for not, enjoying the good things.
Really?
Well, and I think it's interesting because he's a captain that came up differently than some of the other captains we've come up. We know he's got a background in engineering, and we don't see a ton of people jumping from engineering to captaincy. Like, we see scientists, we see people who are in command track from the beginning. Like, but it still warmed my heart when he geeked out over Geordi and not over Picard and Riker. Like, that's where the man started winning me over. I'm like, I have to say, everybody's got some sort of hero. You just got to find the right one. All right, so can we jump to, since I'm talking about Geordi, can I do a parent spiel for a second here?
Absolutely.
The stage is yours.
So I've been thinking a lot. I have two young girls who really enjoy Star Trek, to the point where, like, I've got one of those little LED nebula things, and if you turn off the nebula part, it just has little green dots, and my youngest always wants the Borg Queen lighting on when she goes to bed kind of thing.
Aww.
Yeah, I know. So,
Love it.
oh, yeah, it's fun. But I've been thinking a lot about parenting and parenthood and what this season has been saying about it. So let's stick with Geordi for a second, because I said it got me right here when Shaw really geeked out over Geordi. Now, Geordi took a lot of crap for everything that wasn't his engineering and relationship with Data and TNG. I mean, he didn't have the world's best relationships, but I have loved nothing more than seeing him as a family man in this season, and seeing him with his daughters, protecting his daughters, putting them first, all of that. And there's a lot to say about parenthood in this one that with Jack, and I will come to that. But one of the things that is so cool with Geordi in this episode is when they're talking, he's always thinking about his girls first. Where are my girls? Locate Alondra, all of this. And when he's talking to Picard about, I'm leaving this ship, but they have my babies, and they're like, we got it. What else is really interesting is that he and Beverly are like the parents that I kind of feel like I am. If something is wrong with my kid, you better get out of my way, because I am going to do whatever the heck it is. Even if you are my partner who helped me, spawn this child, get out of my way. I'm protecting my kid. And it was interesting because when they're revealing that, Jack has this Borg in him, and Beverly's like, how could I not have seen this? Da, 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 da. And then we have this nice little bit where Geordi says to her, it's not all he is. And he says that back to Beverly, and she kind of, you can almost see her just exhale a little bit. Like, there's me in there too. That's right. And then later on, when Geordi wants to rush off and get his girls, and Data says, you need a plan, it's Beverly who puts the hand on his shoulder. Like, our kids are directly involved with this. Those people who've raised and been with these kids. That was such a beautiful little thing. And that is real parenting right there. Those little moments like that. And I liked how it almost paralleled when Data puts his hand on Picard earlier when they're talking about it.
I didn't make that connection.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's all of those little things, and how you're talking about both found family and biological family. And those biologicals are real strong for things like that. Like, your instinct is, somebody's hurting my kid, I'm getting there right now. And so that's been really a nice thing for me to see, is to see Geordi stepping into that role, and you believe it, which is so nice to see Geordi getting that part of him rounded out, because we all knew it was in there. So my other parenting thing here is, okay, let's talk about Jack. And he's got Jean-Luc and Beverly as his parents, right? And we've already said a couple times in here, we've seen shades of both of them in his actions, in his responses, in all of that. Now, I also want to always bear in mind that, how many days has this been? Maybe a week that Picard has known he has a kid. So I am going to give him some grace in some of this, because that's a huge thing to wrap your head around. He hasn't really had time to sit down and process it, because, people are trying to kill him. The universe is about to end. The Borg are taking over Starfleet. He's had a few other things going on. And
he didn't have the time to reconcile before meeting.
Correct.
Like you do when you have a baby.
Correct. Yeah. But that scene when Picard and Jack are talking back and forth about the Borg, and we thought it was Irmatic syndrome, and it's not, and it's a seed, and it's planted. Like, I just want to look at Picard, and when they're talking about, the protocols of a father, like, I get it, but I get where he's coming from, having had at the time and having had that relationship. That is so antithetical to everything that me as a parent feels. Like, I would bend rules, I would break laws, I would do bad things to save my kids. Now, maybe that's me. But I also, then you see Beverly, and the scene where Jack warps off and the two of them are in that window, and they're talking about, he got the best of you and the worst of me. And she's talking about how she, gave Wesley space, and now he's gone, and she watched Jack, but it still didn't work. And Picard starts to say something, and she's like, there's got to be something I can do. I'm going to find it. That's the parent that I felt right there, when she's like, you know what? Forget all this. I'm going to find something to save my kid. I'm smart. I'm capable. I have resources. Watch me do this. And that it's just so interesting because as a parent, you do have to compartmentalize sometimes. Like you have to say, this is my kid, but I know this and that. And they're both compartmentalizing in totally different ways. They have had enough training, enough experience, enough everything to rise to the occasion. But when it's your kid on the line and one is like, no, I'm deferring to the experts, and the other one is, I'm going to figure something out, that's really interesting. And how does that play into poor Jack? And but man, Picard, if I had mind control, I would have mind controlled those guards too, because could you imagine poor Jack? He's heard him say Starfleet was the only family he ever needed. He never stepped up for his mom. He never stepped up for anybody else except for Starfleet. And now here, I'm just going to give you over to the research facility, to the asylum, whatever you want to call it, to the Vulcans. Like,
Yeah.
dude, no. And why wasn't Beverly in that conversation too?
Because it was about the Borg experience, I think.
I don't care. She knew it was going to be traumatic and horrible for her son. You're there for support, even if you don't say anything. I mean, we saw Picard get mad when he's talking about his experience with the Borg. That bubbling over rage of the things that they make you do. Like, she could have been there to take it down, or to look at it from the, I haven't been a Borg, I'm not a Borg, here's an outside perspective, let's solve this. So that was me. And there's just been so much about this whole relationship that I really, 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 really hope that we get some resolution between Picard and Beverly and between Jack, Picard, and Beverly in this next hour. So, okay, soapbox down. Sorry.
It's all right. No, you're all right. I feel like the issue of him not knowing about, of Jean-Luc not knowing about Jack was very quickly glossed over. And yes, it's because people were trying to kill them, so fine. But we need to come back to that. And we need to come back to, does Jack have any ill feeling toward his mother because of the fact that she never told his father? It could have been a different circumstance. And both of those men consider that. And so I think that plays into it too. I can't think of anything, and you guys are going to correct me on this, I'm sure, and the listeners will correct me on this. With the exception of the time of the inner light, maybe, I can't think of anything that Picard has that kind of absolute need to protect, need to take care of, that would override everything else.
Starfleet.
Maybe I'm...
Yeah.
Yeah. The crew. The concept of his crew in general. But then you think about First Contact and how he's perfectly fine with putting down, for lack of a better term, his officers who have been assimilated.
Well, the Borg have always been the shadow following him. Like, it almost makes sense that this would have to be what it would be, because it's always been what's been tailing him. It's always been his monster in the corner. And yeah. I think he treats the Borg so much differently than he does any other species because of his experience. Rightfully.
Oh,
but yeah. But it's very, very different.
You mentioned, too, Beverly not being there, or even Troy not being there as a professional in these issues. But if I were in either one of their shoes, knowing how he has functioned with Borg before, I would have been concerned that he just out killed Jack to stop the threat. And so I would have wanted somebody to be there, or to be there, to make sure that didn't happen. That's extreme. I realize that. But it's possible.
I think it's interesting that we know both of these characters, Beverly and Jean-Luc, so well for all these years and all this. Mm-hmm. We don't know so much about their relationship besides the tidbits of we tried it was on again, off again, it wasn't, it was here, it was there. I think there's a lot of exploring there that would explain some of it. And I remember back in the beginning, in the very first episode, when we're all like, oh, is Jack his son? We're not sure. We think, but we're not sure. And everyone was like, no, this would be terrible. Beverly would be the worst mom for hiding him for all this time. But
I still think so.
Well,
yeah.
But she was right. Look, and even if she had, well, I don't know. it's interesting, those two parents, because they are both such stubborn, strong personalities, and you see such different reactions from them. And Jack has, when you go back and look, he is kind of a mix of them both. I mean, he says it in that 10 forward scene. We keep seeing more and more about how he is a mix of them. And, Picard is ready to send him off with officers, and Beverly's chasing him down the hallway. That last no that she screams when he's walking away and she's being held by the...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I felt that, like, my stomach sank. That is the true anguished, like, somebody I love this might be it that you don't get unless that is that really, really deep relationship. And Picard would not do that. So, I don't know. He's been a good mix. It's been an interesting look at parenthood. I hope there's a really good resolution. And I really hope Beverly doesn't lose another son, or Wesley shows back up and, like, I don't know, time travel. Yeah. I mean, have the Watchers been watching this? This seems kind of like a big deal, but that's a whole nother ball of wax too. That's season 2.
For all we know, Jack is a fixed point in time.
Yeah.
A fixed event, whatever happens to him. I still think Beverly could have told him and said, don't want to around. And Picard would have been mad, and he probably would have pushed back against it, and there would have been problems. But she could have Carol marked it. At least then he could have. Because say what you will about the relationship between, Jim Kirk and Carol Marcus, at least there was that. He was honest.
Yeah, I agree. She had a duty to tell him.
Yeah.
Even if she didn't want him involved.
Could he not have been involved, though? This is Picard. His sense of duty and honor. Like, she knows him well enough to know, first of all, he's going to feel obligated. And second of all, he's always going to choose Starfleet. So it's like walking away from somebody who never has your best interest at heart.
I think his sense of duty would also respect her wishes, though.
Maybe.
I would like to see that fight.
Maybe.
I mean, that would be a rip-roarer.
Let's go back to all good things, and we can retcon that into the divorce.
There we go.
It definitely could.
So you mentioned that you like to see the parent side of Geordi and how Data had to stop him. I also like to see this as character development for Data. I do not think the old Data would have responded that way at all. In either the scene with Picard where he puts his arm on his shoulder, or the scene where he convinces Geordi not to run off to find his daughters. I think that shows a lot of growth in Data, and that this Data is very much not the same person that he was before.
So I love the thing with Picard because Data asking, "Do you want me to say something comforting?"
Comforting,
right?
Yeah.
That felt like old Data,
because that would have just been rote for him, like, this is something that people do, and so I should try to do that. But for this, the words were old Data, the sentiment was new Data. Because he actually had a emotional response, so he was trying to help. It wasn't just to fill in what you're supposed to be doing as a human.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that Data won out over lore, but we know all those pieces are in there. And I mean, I think some of this, just the way that Data moves now is a little more lore. You see some of that facial expression, that tiny little bit of sarcasm, the dark humor of, I hope we die quickly. Like
that was 100% lore.
That was lore right
So
there.
good.
And I think that's okay, because obviously Brent Spiner can embody multiple Soongs. We've had this discussion. All differently and all very well. So it's nice to see those little flashes of other. I'm still dying for Lal to flash out somewhere, since why mention her way back at the beginning of all this if you aren't going to see her at all? But yeah. I do like that Data is growing as much here. And he's died multiple times now and he's back. So like, what's next for him? There's a lot of possibilities going on here. And I hope that we do get some, not necessarily end of stories for any of these characters, but next steps of where everybody is going after this, because there's going to be some sort of wrap up next week. And we would like there to be a continuation, but in order for it to feel like this satisfying conclusion that we all are hoping for and hearing it's going to be, we're going to have some of those. So I can't wait to see what they decide is the next step for Data.
I feel like the only one I know, I kind of feel like where we know he's going to end up is Jordan. Because
he's going back to the museum.
What happens? He's going to go back to the museum. That's going to be it. If he's in Starfleet anymore, if they don't, knock him all out of Starfleet for everything. But
how much of Starfleet is going to be left after this again?
Okay,
because that's what I was thinking. If all the young people, not all, but if a lot of the young people have been through the transporters, they're assimilated, they're taking over, kill all the unassimilated, are we going to have a whole bunch of young people suddenly become captains again?
Okay, so and again, I'm going to come back to, as often I'll say, I saw someone on Twitter say this, I don't remember who, and I'm sorry.
All right.
What if the Academy show isn't set in the 31st century?
I saw that too. And they focused on the 16.
The thing was, yes, for the first time the Academy is opening its doors to people 16 and older, is what it said. We all took that to mean, the Academy's reopening because Earth is rejoining the Federation. But what if it means they're lowering the age because they just lost a whole generation to the Borg?
Well, then we could have Elnor.
Yeah.
I do love Elnor.
Who we have had confirmation was not on the blowed up Excelsior, so that's good.
Thank God. But that doesn't mean he's not Borgified somewhere. Could you imagine how horribly lethal a Borgified Elnor would be?
Oh, boy, yeah.
He would make all of them horribly lethal because they would just have assimilated his abilities. Yeah.
Hey.
I regret your resistance.
There we go.
Yeah. Absolute candor in a collective is very easy because you can't not.
Very true.
I still think the Academy show is going to be in the 31st century.
I do,
but it is an interesting thought to think. Well, maybe. I don't think we're going to lose all of these 20-somethings. I think they're going to reverse it next week.
Mm-hmm.
What if Seven does the whole mini collective thing that she did on the artifact, plugs herself in and takes over, and then re-hijacks the Titan with the people on there as her mini collective and comes in to help out?
Well, something's going to happen there. Seven and Rafi are still on the Titan with, I'm hoping, not completely dead Shaw. So
only mostly dead.
And a whole bunch of supporting characters whose names we know and who have had lines and somewhat major, not necessarily major, but they've had enough that we're not killing more than one of them is my guess. And we already
two of them
have
are Geordi's daughters.
And we did already kill one.
Exactly.
A couple weeks ago, so yeah.
And two are Geordi's daughters, so I'm pretty sure we're not killing one of them.
Oh, that'll be rough.
Yeah.
If we did.
Well, okay. They're not going to kill Alondra because Mika Burton has a million times on Twitter said, can't wait to do more in this playground with my father, I hope, blah, 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 blah. I think that's...
Oh, I missed that, yeah.
It could be prequels.
It could be. It could be. It could be. She's been the one we've seen less of.
I don't think they're going to kill Sydney.
I don't think so either. They're setting her up for too much.
They've done too much to invest us in that character.
Emphatic
I
nod.
really don't think they would kill her.
No.
I think we might lose the Bajoran guy. And
Mira.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Esmar, who's sitting in the big chair right now. She does a good creepy Borg. Wow.
Oh, she does, yeah.
She does a good creepy Borg.
There was a really good close-up photo of her in the makeup chair in good lighting. With the Borg. And that Borg makeup, they put little circuit board designs in those little veins that go across the face. It's really cool.
Oh.
And then they did it on the Titan with no lights, so none of us saw it.
Mika Burton is also posting. She said she has 100+ images of behind the scene getting Borgified, but she's put a chunk up there too that are so cool.
They're probably waiting for after next week.
Well, there's a whole book on the art of Picard that's coming out in September that is all about the making of this season and all of the pretty stuff in it. So.
If it's like the Art of Discovery book, which I already have, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, and it's a hefty price tag for the actual book, so I'm guessing it's going to be really beautiful, big, high glossy pictures kind of thing.
So, I mean, absolutely, if you want to pay the like $50 or $60 that it's going to be.
Kindle it.
No, books like those you don't want to.
Well, you do until you see if it's worth it or not. Or
what I was going to say is...
You go to Barnes & Noble and you look at it over a cup of coffee.
Those big art books, I have gotten almost all the ones that I own, I have gotten at conventions like a year or two after they come out, when they're at somebody's booth for like half price.
And they don't want to take them home.
Yep.
Because they're heavy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We do that every year at the convention, or at the Medieval Congress. There's always publishers that are like, we don't want to carry this home. You want the whole table for $20? Like, yeah, we'll carry it home.
Yeah, that's how I got that Stargate coffee table at Mission Chicago. I got it for like $50 off because of that. And I didn't have to pay shipping, obviously.
So if we're talking about pretty things, before we get to the big pretty thing, which I'm sure we're going to spend quite a bit of time on, can I point out 2 other small pretty things that I really, really enjoyed in this episode? One, I don't know who the counselor on the Titan normally is, but the chairs that Deanna and Jack were sitting in that you see from up above, they're super cool. They're like round, but they're like perfectly circular round, but with like an outside edge, and they've got this cool blue and white pattern. So bravo to whoever the normal Titan counselor is for having excellent taste in chairs. They're very cinematic. They're very cool. I would totally rock those chairs. And then the second thing, which does not probably surprise either one of you or anyone who's listened to me before, is the soundtrack in this one. Like that, I cannot wait for this soundtrack to drop this week, because I don't think I'm going to listen to anything else except for, the 700 Star Trek and other podcasts I listen to. But like when there's music on, it's going to be this one. I'm going to take the night off of podcasts. I
loved this music.
And it's coming out right when the season ends, which is exactly what they should do. Looking at you, Strange New World Season 1 soundtrack that still isn't out.
That's apparently some sort of negotiation thing with the union of something to do with that. I don't know. I'm really annoyed. I want that soundtrack, but yeah, that's why. But this coming out at the end is also better. I'm still remembering season 1 of Discovery when they spoiled Culbert's death in the soundtrack.
I'm remembering Generations. And one of my favorite one of my top 5 pieces of Star Trek music ever is called Kirk's Death. And getting that CD at the mall before I saw the movie and going, wait, what?
Well,
dang!
I mean, everybody knew that that was like a pre-spoiler era, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we all knew Kirk was going to die in the movie, but yes.
But to put it out there and to release that before the movie actually, that is this was a whole different time. I mean, but my little 12-year-old self was a little appalled by that.
That Generation soundtrack slaps, though.
I love the Generation soundtrack. Like, First Contact gets a lot of love for the theme, and I think it has the best theme of any Next Gen movie. But man, the Generation soundtrack has just beautiful song after beautiful song after beautiful song, and all the sound effects, which is way fun when you're making up your own Star Trek shows.
Honestly, all 4 of the TNG movie soundtracks are all really good in their own separate ways, in the way that all of those movies were very different movies, some of them better than others. But the soundtracks are all very excellent.
Yeah.
Also, did you have the First Contact soundtrack CD when it first came out? With that CD-ROM
yes,
fighting the Borg game?
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Man. Oh, it wasn't the best game, but it was
basically a flash game where you go through the corridors of the Enterprise D, because I guess they made it before the movie came out, and like you had to shoot Borg with a phaser, and you had to remodulate your phasers to make sure that it would still kill the Borg. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those games that after you played it for a while and got over the, ooh, this is fun, I'm killing Borg, you were like, this is way more work than I need it to be.
Right.
But it was still fun. And that First Contact CD had the really like flashy holographic cover, so that was also very fun.
It was just wild that it had a computer game on an audio CD. I had never seen that before in my life, and I honestly don't think I've ever seen that since. I think that's the only CD I ever had that had a computer game on it at the same time.
Yeah. That's different.
Gotta love the 90s. All right, anyways. So those were 2 of the just little pretty things that I liked in this. Plus, gotta call out the lighting in this episode, especially in the Borg cube, was well done. Like, I know that people are saying that the lighting is too dark on the Titan and but the lighting on the Borg cube,
It's supposed to be dark on a board cube. That was
it's always
great.
been dark.
And it heightened the mood just right. The way that the shadows are, and you could almost see some of the tubule shadows coming towards Jack before the actual tubules. Like, that was well thought out and well executed. So bravo on that.
So, yeah. There has to be a deliberate reason we didn't see the face of the board.
Correct.
So she may be the changeling, as you've been speculating. If not, it means it's going to be someone we know, I think.
See, I did not go there with any of that. I just thought that was a way to film it. I didn't even think about that.
Well, my husband said, he's like, oh, it must be because the lady who played the Borg Queen in season 2 died. And I was like, oh yeah, Annie Wershing passed and blah, blah, blah. And maybe that's why. And then there were people saying, well, maybe it's actually still going to be her face. But then we know that that's in a totally different realm, according to the creatives. And I don't know, but
they got
there's
Alice
a reason.
Kriega's voice.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going on there? There's some speculation on Twitter that it might be Janeway.
It better not be.
I think that
I am not okay with that.
I don't think it's true.
We've done that. She gets to relax from the Borg for a little bit.
No one
But you know,
gets to relax.
all right,
Yeah.
fair. But okay, we're talking about Janeway. They've dropped Janeway's name multiple times.
Yeah.
So I really, really hope she shows up, but I also think if she does, it's not going to be huge. It's not going to be the way like we think. Maybe it will have something to do with she's helping resuscitate Tuvok after they rescue him. Because like I said before, if we don't rescue Tuvok, real Tuvok, I'm going to riot because...
So what should have happened is as they're pulling the Enterprise D out of the museum, Janeway should have showed up in the shuttle, be like, "Hey, Geordi, I need Voyager. It's not connected to that network."
That would have been funny. And she could have had, like, grown-up Naomi Wildman behind her, helping her out, not Borgified, because they'd been on the case of all this forever. When they realized something was up with Tuvok, they started getting twitchy.
So, is this why Ro Laren didn't use a transporter?
Yeah.
I think so. She knew something was up, not exactly what, but she knew something was up enough. And I think that's kind of cool. Like, and if you remember way back when we first started seeing Jack with his visions, he was seeing people transport and the vines coming out of them, which was the Borg code going into them, which is so
I hadn't even
cool.
You're right, because he
hadn't
had
thought
that
of
whole
that
thing in the transporter room.
Yeah.
So
So
I hadn't even thought of that.
they've been dropping crumbs about the transporters being something really vital and important to all this for a long time. And that's just, that's really, really interesting and really well thought out writing. Like, I have a feeling, like, I always go back after the end of a Star Trek series and rewatch all of them in a chunk.
Oh, yeah.
Because, especially with these new seasons that are shorter, it's much easier. But I think, and I usually watch them each 4 times when they come out or more, and then I go back and watch the one before, and then this, because I'm that person and I don't.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm right there with you.
This week's episode 6 times. I'm fine.
I'm only at 5, but that's because I was coming back from vacation yesterday and our plane got delayed. But anyways, I love doing that because I pick up on some of those little things that you don't see, and then you go back and you're like, why didn't we see this? And that is good writing, and that is good storytelling, and that is one of the reasons that we keep coming back and we rewatch and we analyze and we think and we love this, because the people who write this are smart, and the people in Star Trek, we see smart people doing smart things, and I love that. So bravo. I hope maybe the transporter is a way to clean everything up too, you know, like if we can do it one way, can we reverse it?
I would think so.
I mean, we do that all the time with transport. I mean, like we said, Rascals again. Can't we just put them back through with a little button tweak and it's all good?
I would think so, yeah. You're talking about seeing things and catching them the next time. Like, the first time I watched this episode, I completely missed Picard's joke about a field demotion when the computer called him captain. Because I was too busy freaking the frick out about hearing Majel Barrett.
Yeah. Tears. All right, so are we going to talk about this part now? Let's just talk about this part now.
Yeah, let's do it, yeah.
Because I'm over here, like, doing the Muppet arms because I'm so excited.
Well, first off, just to pick up from where Thad said, apparently that was pulled from Chain of Command.
Yes. When Picard takes command back from Jellicoe.
Yep. But okay, so first of all, before we get to the D, and I thought they were going to show us with Space Dock blowing up, and like I've said a couple times, I watch with my husband, and I'm death gripping his arm going, don't you blow up my Space Dock. Don't you blow up my favorite Space Dock. I love that Space Dock. Don't you blow up that Space Dock. And he just keeps looking at me. And then as we're coming over and we see Hangar Bay 12, and I'm like, I told you Hangar Bay 12 meant something when they got to the Field Museum the first time, and you told me no, it was just the cloak. And anyways, so I'm watching with him, and the doors open, and like we all kind of knew this was coming. If you pay attention on the internet, it's hard to know this isn't coming. But I can only imagine that this is what it feels when people like go to the bridge replica in Ticonderoga, and they're just like, because I haven't been able to do that, and the D is what was my foundation. That's like where I just tears streaming, and I gripped his arm even harder, and he looks at me, he goes, they're not blowing it up. Why are you holding my arm so tight? And I'm just like, because
entirely different place.
Right. I'm like, it's my ship. And like, and when Data goes, I'm feeling, and he can't even say the words. And Deanna says, you're not the only one. I'm just like, that's me. And I know that this is fan service and nostalgia, and I don't give two figs because it's so well done and so beautiful.
It is.
It was just something that I've wanted for so long and never thought I would get, and it was done so well. So well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It was just... We all knew it was coming. We all knew... Like, as soon as Geordi said, I have another idea, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's happening.
Yep.
And, yeah. And, just so amazing to see it.
When the displays lit up...
I have to say, I was a little worried when the displays lit up, because he says, we need some lights in here, and the displays turned on, and nothing else turned on at first.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, they're going to do Titan lighting on the D. This is terrible. But no, thankfully not.
It wasn't even Generations lighting on the D.
No.
Thankfully.
This was not the Generations D.
No. This was our D.
I've seen some talk on that. Is like there's some people like, well, why didn't he do it with the Generations version? And people are saying, when you restore an old car, you don't do it to its last modification. You do it back to the way it looked when it came out of the factory.
Yep.
And that's what Geordi did with this. He got rid of those side consoles and the extra platform that the captain's chair sits on, and Worf doesn't have a chair anymore.
He could have left Worf's chair. He could have.
Honestly, Worf looked terrible sitting at that chair.
Yeah, he's not a sitting
He's like
kind of
hunched
guy.
over the Anyway.
No, but it just, and that as they all fan out of the turbo lift and everything comes on and they all just stand there and it feels like you just release this breath and there's just that nugget of joy in the universe now, and it was just so good. And I love how much it mirrored back to Farpoint, where, Geordi's the one driving the ship. We're back to, the blind guy drives the ship, that from the very first episode, that criticism thrown out there. Data says hello to his chair, which just... it was just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I kind of hope, and I know this is probably an absolutely vain hope, but could we, see the ready room, maybe just through the door, part of a wall, just something in there? I would like to know if he restored it back all the way with the full fish, is Livingston hanging out in there? Does he go feed him? If we want it to be truly accurate. But like he said, he hadn't finished all the hull plating. He probably hadn't gotten to the fish. But that was just wonderful. And for all of them to be we're your family, and then for them to call out the kids, though, we might have wanted to say Kestra in there too, just saying. But
they did mention Kestra once or twice earlier in the season.
It would have been nice that if we wouldn't have had to go to the creator on Twitter to find out that she's at Starfleet Academy and she's fine. She didn't being held hostage on Nepenthe by a changeling or something.
She's at the Academy?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I missed.
If she's at the Academy, then she's a Borg now.
Exactly.
She would be anyway. She was born on the Titan, so she's been through.
Well, if she was on Nepenthe, maybe she wouldn't be near enough to whatever happened. Yeah. But if she's at the Academy, she's definitely...
Yeah, there's a lot of transporters just in their central courtyard.
Yeah.
Well,
we
and
saw
as
him earlier.
We saw in the first season of Picard, that's nothing anymore now. There were those transporters you could walk through.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and what does that mean for Starfleet down on the planet on Earth. Like, I mean, I know that the whole fleet's coming, orbital defenses, but did their signal bounce off of Earth's orbital defense? Is Starfleet Academy, like, is Clancy being taken out by her ensign that lets people in her door to her office? You know, there's a lot going on there too. I saw a couple people say Clancy should have been Shelby, and I'm like, no.
It should have been a Chaev, but that's a whole other.
That would have been cool.
Or Jellicoe. Yeah, but
And he's got other stuff to do.
So bringing that up, okay, here's something that has bothered me about this, because they talk about transporters and this issue, and I looked for it, and now I didn't write it down. Do they ever specifically say Starfleet transporters or just transporters? Because if this is on...
I think they said Starfleet transporters.
Okay, because if this is on all of the Federation transporters, then everyone under the age of 25 on Earth and Vulcan and, everywhere else.
And I feel like it wouldn't be 25 on Vulcan. It would probably be like 55.
Okay, well,
yes.
Non-Vulcan.
Still,
so give it
all the younger generations.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Whatever the early 25th century version of Gen Z is, yes.
All right, so here's my question, too, though, with that. So let's say we know that the little transmitter, the little jack being plugged in, is in this Borg Maul spaceship nebula, whatever. He's in the orange cloud in the Borg thing, right? How far away is that? Aircraft carrier. There you go.
He took a transwarp conduit.
Exactly. So we don't know,
so it could be in the Delta Quadrant.
It could be anywhere. How far does this signal reach? Is it reaching everybody everywhere at the same time? Is there a slight delay? I mean, we know that even simultaneous things, my air quotes nobody can see, but simultaneous things like the burn have enough of a small difference because of just the space it has to cover that you can triangulate.
Well, and do we even know if it is going everywhere, or are they directing it to Earth right now?
Exactly. There's a lot of questions to be. I mean, it's a cool looking thing, but I have a lot of questions about it.
Yeah.
But we have a whole nother episode, so I'm guessing some of these things are going to be answered in there, and perhaps Jack will do something to the transmitter and transmit a completely different message of hope and love and peace and unity and oneness, and we'll be to the utopia that the Federation never quite really was, right? Or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, that was his thought process, right?
Yeah.
All right, so before we got to the D, we did have the scene on the Titan where they had to fight their way off the Titan.
Oh, yeah.
And we lose Shaw in very much a symbolic parallel to his story of what happened on his ship at Wolf 359.
Yes. And I was concerned that was foreshadowing from the beginning. I think a lot of people were.
And it's possible it was.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still, crossing my fingers that he's not really dead, but he is.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he did call 7-7, I think, really shows that he's dead. I think that was done as a deliberate to end his story, and that was beautifully done. Loved every minute of that, and I will be forever thankful for everything that Todd Stashwick brought to that role, because he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you saw him on the cruise, Thad, and I've watching any interview with him or when he was on the Ready Room or any of that. This man loves the fact that he got to be in Star Trek. And that just makes it so much better when you realize that normally he's going to gush about this kind of stuff. And then to see how different he can turn it on as Shaw it speaks to his immense amount of acting talent in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a huge nerd. I actually, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show or not before. I have a friend that I went to high school with who owns a game store in LA.
Oh, yeah.
And Todd Stashwick is one of his regular customers, just comes in and buys, various nerdy stuff all the time. And he's been gushing to my friend Ike, for the past year about how excited he is that he's on Star Trek and that people will get to see him on Star Trek.
That's so cool. Didn't he get a Star Trek tattoo recently too, like a Titan and his pips on his arm? I think
I missed that, but
I'm not sure it's on his arm. I know it's some sort of Titan tattoo. It might not be the pips, but it's definitely a Titan tattoo. So anyone who brands themselves with Trek, you're my kind of nerd.
I don't even have that.
You're still my kind of nerd, Dad.
Oh, thank you.
So are you, Chrissy. Obviously, as I sit here on a Sunday afternoon chatting for
hours. I don't have any tattoos. I have considered if I ever got one, it would probably be a DS9 Voyager era comm badge on my chest.
I don't have any. And that's very similar to my thought process, except it would be at the end.
All right, Chrissy, let's go get Star Trek tattoos.
All right, so we can do that at Mission Seattle. Oh, never Sorry.
No, and as someone, and Chrissy is someone who's a professor, I don't know if like you can make STLV work, but that time of year for anyone who's in the education system or who has kids, it's always going to be a no-go. It's like, I cannot do that. And I want nothing more than to go to more cons and be with more people. I just can't do it in that chunk of August. So please, universe, let's manifest this. I will get, if we are all in the same place for a con next time, I will get a Trek tattoo with the two of you. We will make our appointments ahead of time. We'll do something small. I want a delta, I think, behind my ear, so we'll be all good.
So it's a shame because Vegas, and this year is probably the last year is going to be at the Rio, so this may not be true anymore, but at the Rio, there actually is a tattoo parlor in the casino, and in years past, they've done discounts for people who are there at the convention.
Well, there was that one that was
in Chicago.
Yeah,
in Chicago, they set it up.
Like Caleb got a really cool one. Who else? Brooke got a gorgeous
looked
one.
Amazing.
Yeah. There's some. Caleb Dorsch got the Zora. The little her little voice print on his arm, and it's stunning. Yeah.
And I've been to, I think it was Steel City Con in Pittsburgh. There's a tattoo artist. There was a tattoo artist there that just had a booth in the middle of the convention floor and would just do tattoos right out there. Nice. Everybody would walk past and you would see someone getting a tattoo.
Well, we have a date at some time in the future to become extra nerdy together.
Absolutely.
That sounds wonderful.
All right, so totally off subject question here. Do we think, and I've got two questions, three. Talking about big romantical relationships in this, do we think there's going to be resolution to Raffi and Seven? Or something that shows us that there's a possible continuation if we have more shows. Because I feel like just the, hey, how are you? Hey, we kind of broke. That was not enough for me. I love those two powerful women together. They obviously love acting with each other. I hope there is. And then do we think that there's going to be some sort of resolution with Laris, who, we haven't seen since episode 1? And while my heart lays with Jean-Luc and Beverly, I don't think that they are necessarily good together as a couple. I think they are good together as fantastically good friends, which is a type of very close, intimate relationship that doesn't get enough love on TV. So I would kind of be happy with that. And then lastly, are we doing anything with the whole Sydney Jack flirting? Or are we saving that for a possible new show too? Or is Jack just going to die and it's useless?
I was going to say that depends on whether or not he dies. And I would put the odds 50-50 he's going to be dead at the end of the series.
And even not, I think Sydney would probably have a lot of trauma to unpack before she would be ready to date Jack after that.
But they went through trauma together, and that sometimes has a way of...
That's true.
Making a connection. But, yeah.
So, I love Picard and Laris together. I do not think we're going to see that at the end of the episode. I would love to see it, though. I think they are fantastic together. Honestly, I think of all the women we have seen Picard with over the course of the last 30-some years, I think Laris is the best fit.
I think she has the best way of putting him in check in a way he listens to. I don't think he's ever listened to anybody, including Beverly, the same way. I think he definitely listens to her, but it's not in the same way he listens to Laris. And I think Orla Brady is just one of the most fantastic people on the planet. So I would love to see her back, but I also think it's pretty doubtful.
Yeah. I don't think Picard and Beverly are going to get together. I think that ship has long since sailed.
But I really would like them, two things. One, to have a conversation together as parents, not with the, I'm just finding this out and now I'm going to blow it off and we don't have time for any of this. I want them to have some sort of resolution conversation that we get to be a part of. And I would like them to have physical contact with each other. Have you noticed? They have not touched, like none of those little gestures, no hugs, no hand on the arm. When they're standing in that window, Beverly is standing with her arms crossed. There is space between them. They are obviously, like I said, they're compartmentalizing because you have to. But there obviously is so much there. Let's wrap this up. Let's at least see them have a good conversation with a good hug and say, it will not be 20 years before you hear from me again. Like, we're going to keep this friendship up. There's obviously, when push came to shove, I called you. So there's a reason. And, okay, what do we think happened to the Enterprise E? Or is that going to be, I saw, Thad, you said you want a short trek about what Worf did to the Enterprise E.
I really just want them to do short treks again. But...
Yes,
I want to know what happened to the Enterprise E with
Captain Worf.
Obviously something probably. He did something. There's some people on I tweeted that out and a couple people were like, "Oh, well, we saw it. It's when he crashed into Nemesis." Like, no, that is not it.
Picard. It was under Picard.
Well, Picard wasn't on the ship at the time,
Still.
But I mean, it was
that would not have been Worf's fault.
Right.
But regardless, we also see that the ship is being repaired in dry dock at the end of the movie. So that's not... I want to know what happened. We're probably never going to find out. That was just a throwaway line to be amusing.
Maybe pick it up later.
You know, it was perfect because there were a ton of those. And we've mentioned a bunch of them. You know, the I hope we die quickly and hello chair and the carpet and all that. These little beats that they can throw in that make you smile or like giggle or snort, because this is a family we know well, and these are actors who can play that stuff off because of their existing relationships.
Yeah.
And in a very serious episode with a lot of big things going on, to still have those little moments like that really helps the balance and really makes it feel like our crew who we've known for so long. And I really appreciate them still throwing those little things in there.
Yeah. Whatever it was, it had to have blown it to pieces because you kind of figure that Geordi might have been working on that. I mean, it doesn't have quite the same old home, feel of the Enterprise D, but you could kind of see that.
So do we think there's any more big cameo likelihoods besides we said Tuvok and Janeway? I know a lot of people have thoughts that there's one more we haven't heard of yet. But
I want Will Wheaton to come back.
I do too.
Yeah. The only other thing, when it was leaning more toward, and it is funny how people picked up on the Paul Wraith thing, even though there was absolutely no reason to. It was just like, oh, he's got red eyes, so that must be the thing. But having this be a purely changeling thing and not having anyone other than Worf from DS9 is a disservice. So, if they hadn't shifted it toward the Borg, I would have expected to see somebody from DS9. But
what I really would have wanted from this episode, honestly, is to find out that Geordi's been working on repairing the Enterprise D with his good buddy Miles, who is also there to help.
Oh, yes.
Or that Jake Sisko, the reporter, was covering the Frontier Day celebrations.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of hoping for.
We might still see that. That's a possibility.
We could still see that.
Of course, O'Brien went to the academy, assuming he stayed there. We could still see him too. I didn't even think about that, about Miles being there with him. Oh.
Well, and they've said 1,000 times over there is no Miles O'Brien in season 3, but again, as we've said, they lie. So
yeah. I want them to somehow finagle him and Anson Mount being in the same room as their Star Trek characters, because they were so good to on Hell on Wheels.
Oh yeah.
Holodecks.
Indeed.
Yeah, it would be like that scene in Enterprise when Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell were together.
Well, and I have to say, speaking of Enterprise, I really, as the Enterprise fan over here, enjoy the fact that Frontier Day was honoring Archer and the NX-01 and all of that. And if you have watched the Ready Room, or by the time this comes out, they'll have it up as a separate segment on the YouTube channel for Paramount Plus. There was a beautiful behind the scenes about Enterprise and how they started everything and how they put it out there. And like, Enterprise is often forgotten in the classic Treks because it was at the end, but I really like that there's been a lot of references in modern Trek going back to Enterprise, because there are so many good things there, and there are so many threads that have, you know, been out there and pulled upon, and little music cues. And the only thing that I would have wished that could have been better is if they had actually played Archer's theme when they were talking about the NX-01, but you know, that's just me and my little nerditude here.
Yeah, no, I love that. Also, before this episode, I tweeted a mostly silly thing on Twitter about how I was hoping that the face that was ordering Vadic around was actually going to end up being Future Guy from Enterprise. Because, I mean, Future Guy was invested in the launch of the NX-01, and Frontier Day is the anniversary of that, so maybe we were going to get Scott Bakula here, and unfortunately not. Looks like that ship has definitely sailed, but it would have been cool. Well,
and you sent me a message that said, if this turns out to be true, I'm so glad we're having you on. And I'm like, if this turns out to be true, you will hear my scream from the, you know, time zones away, because, oh my God. Like I on my top 5, you know, wish and dreams for Enterprise, or for Star Trek in a whole, is the answer to who is Enterprise's Future Guy. Like, I don't care if we get a miniseries, I don't care if we get a short trek, I don't care if we get something on screen. Please, this is decades old. We know you like to go back to decades old stuff. This is the time. Please. Maybe he's a Section 31 agent, and it all wraps up into that, you know, short trek movie series, mini series that's still coming somehow.
Okay, well then the big name next week is going to be Michelle Yeoh.
Exactly. That's who Future Guy actually is.
Now, that I would not. I that actually would make sense if she showed up here. It would totally make sense. Yeah,
it would be really jaw-droppingly amazing. It would, but I don't think it has any prayer. No. But man, if Georgiou ends up being Future Guy sometime in the future, I will implode. Like, there will be nothing left of me.
Oh, that's... Future Guy wasn't ostentatious enough.
Future Guy wasn't sarcastic enough.
That too, yeah. So, you know, we have yet more beats of Search for Spock in this, with taking the Enterprise with just them. The bridge, I know that's an obvious one, but I have brought up, you know, how much this is just a Search for Spock homage in a lot of ways. I love that.
Well, and if we're talking canon stuff, every single ship they called out, holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are places that you can go look for all these lists, and they're beautiful. I love the Pulaski shout out. She's not my favorite, but she deserves some love.
Yeah.
So the sad thing about that is, I'm pretty sure they only name a ship after you if you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how old she was? Old in TNG. She would be really old in universe.
She was like, she was what? She was Riker's father's contemporary, so she would have been in her late 60s, early 70s. Thing.
Okay, but Picard is more or less as removed from TNG as we are from when TNG aired. And Diana Muldaur is still alive, just saying.
True.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's Starfleet. Any number of things could have happened to her. She could have been involved in, you know, she could have gotten killed in the Dominion War, or
you know,
whatever.
I was just kind of holding out hope for a Pulaski cameo someday.
I'm pretty sure
we're
that
not
actress
going to get that
done.
because, I don't think she's well, even if she wanted to. So,
and she did not enjoy her time on Star Trek.
No,
unfortunately.
But yeah, it was, especially now that, like, what it turns out that, like, the Borg have been propagating through the transporter. It'd be a perfect thing for her to show up and be like, "I told you so."
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Funny.
There were also quite a few names for production people. There were the Yakuta, the Drexler, the Trumbull, the Sternbach, etc.
Yeah.
speaking of famous Starfleet people, there was the Hikaru Sulu, which I thought was interesting that it had his first name, because almost all of the other ones are just one name, but this was the Hikaru Sulu, which makes you wonder if there's also a Demora Sulu.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
That would be cool.
Thought of that too.
And also coming back to Enterprise, there was the USS Forest.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
which makes me
That was
so
nice.
happy.
Yeah.
One of the truly good admirals that we've seen in Star Trek through and through, does not get enough credit. And, for being one of the first ones, canonically, too, to standing up to people. So good job, Admiral Forrest. Vaughn Armstrong, you're a gem. Oh, and if we're going to guest stars or cameos, can we just say that how cool would it be if Jeffrey Combs showed up in something next week? Like, I don't even care what the role is, just throw him
All
out
right,
there.
so we're still gonna... Agamus and Peanut Hamper are working with the Borg.
I mean, they could be.
They could be.
They could have been a Daystrom station. Yep.
I've been hoping... ever since the Dominion showed up, I've been hoping for Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
I was thinking for a while with all this that Vadic Species was the new brand of Vorta that was somehow just had enough changeling in them to be able to contact the founders. So yeah, I would like to see what is going on with them these days. We could see Wayun 37 or whatever.
Yeah, the face
But
could have been the
also-
last Wayun.
If we continue in the parallels that we briefly alluded to about how there's some parallels between this season and Prodigy and this season and Discovery, not Discovery, Lower Decks. So pretty much all of Starfleet is out of commission. They need assistance. The Enterprise D itself isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
Worf has connections with the Klingons.
Yep.
What if we get, good old grizzled one-eyed General Martok to show up, or Chancellor Martok to show up, and with the cavalry of Klingons?
That would be pretty fun.
That wouldn't be bad. Yeah. I saw somebody on Twitter mention that it should be Rutherford who comes up with the solution.
That would be
Is
really
somebody-
cool.
Somebody had tweeted this really cute, it was in the style of a micro trek, but it wasn't Chris. And it was...
that was Jesse Gender.
Oh, okay, yes, because I retweeted it, and I thought that was awesome. About how, I was just messing around with the transporter code, and I saw this thing called Borg.assimilate. So then I saw somebody else who was talking about that too, and that would be cool if Rutherford were in on it. So that'd be an interesting cameo that no one would be
I
expecting.
just had a thought. All right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how Terry Metalis lies.
Liar!
What if they get help from Sela and the Romulans? Because he said that
Ooh.
Denise Crosby is not in this season. But
That's true. I mean, yeah. There would be
Get help from whoever when it's the Borg.
Yeah. And there would be a kind of a full circle feel to the Romulans coming to the aid of the Federation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Picard starts out with us hearing about how the Federation tried to help the Romulans and failed. It would be appropriate if the Romulans show up to save the day at the end.
Yeah.
That would be a nice full circle. Elnor could be with them, just because.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Elnor. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, wait. Right. Sela comes and helps with the, and the, Elnor, Quatmalat, whatever. And then she, because of these events, have had this shift toward actual reunification, and she ends up being the beginning of Navarre.
Ooh, I love it.
That would be very cool.
We're just going to say that. We'll just say that happens. It's good. Yeah. But I mean, because that would be an interesting character redemption for her. That's redemption. But to bring around for her, because she did not get resolved at all. I was disappointed.
All right. Well, none of our theories are probably going to be true.
Nope, none of them.
But we'll be
Not
back
a
next
one.
week to talk about what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, are there any other final thoughts that either of you have about this episode?
Is it Thursday yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have, like I said at the beginning, I have a feeling that I like this episode a lot, but it feels very abbreviated, as it should, because it's the first part of a 2-part finale. I have a feeling that in the future, I will only be watching this as both parts together. I think it's going to do
yeah.
nothing but make this one better.
This is going to be like best of both. If you don't.
That would be like, it's like episodes 7 and 8. You would never watch those separately either. Or like the first 4 of this season.
Or just all 10. I mean,
all 10. Yeah, that works too. Just, anytime I watch Picard season 3, I just have to set aside an entire day and watch all 10.
Darn.
I know, right?
How dare we?
All right. Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you on Infinite Diversity. Where can listeners find you online?
Well, thanks to both of you for having me on again. It is just a joy to chat Trek with both of you, and I always just smile so much when I chat with you, and this was no exception. So, best place to find me is still on Twitter. I'm at Abby M. Sommer. That's SOMMER. I've dipped my toe into Mastodon, but haven't done much with it over there. And if you want to hear me talk even more about Enterprise and how much I enjoy it and love the series, my co-host Chris and I, who I think you guys are going to be talking to very shortly, we do a podcast called First Flight, where we go through all the episodes of Enterprise in order and discuss them. And we are about almost halfway through the second season, so we've got some good ones done and some really exciting ones coming up. And you can find First Flight Pod on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, all that.
Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not being stealthily assimilated?
Ooh, hope not. Right, so in addition to here on Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagys, which will be back in a few weeks. That twice-weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian partner, Jason. And I'm also happy to chat about our shows in the BQN Collective on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter at The Goddess Livia, that's TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. Thad, where can people find you when you're not collecting parts to build a ship like Geordi and or the people who have the Eagle Moss?
I mean, I'm probably never not doing that, to be fair.
Well, you're doing it then. That worked, yeah.
I mean, especially if we equate parts to acquiring random Star Trek things, the answer is I am never not doing that.
That's true.
I literally just got a baseball hat that from the ILM team that did the VFX on First Contact.
I saw that,
yesterday.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's actually a really nice hat. It fits really well. And I like stuff like that because it's like, it's extremely rare but not valuable. So it's like...
Well, no,
it's
valuable
cool
to a select number of people.
Yes.
It's extremely rare but doesn't cost an arm and a leg to acquire. So it's like, it's a cool little thing to have because that's not something that most people would have, but it's also not something that you need to, take out a second mortgage to acquire. I think I got it for like $30.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can't buy a new Niners hat for that price.
I know, right? Anyway, best place to find me is on Twitter. I also dipped my toe in Mastodon, but I've pulled it out. I haven't been on there in a while now. I think we were all thinking Twitter would die quickly, and it turns out Twitter is dying very slowly. And until it actually does, I will be there. I am at Tyrannicus, that's TYRANICUS, where I tweet about Star Trek most of the time. You can also hear me on the podcast I do with my friend Carl about James Bond and James Bond adjacent things called License to Spiel. That's license spelled with a C like the British do it. And you can find that in all of your favorite podcast sources, except for Spotify, because we put music clips in our podcast episodes, and that would be a no-no. Anyway.
All right, and don't forget about all of our other great shows here on BQN Podcast, like Galaxy Class, All Good Things, Union Federation, What's the T-Bev, Trexperts Quiz, Mickey's Marvels, mentioned already History with the Szilagys. And we've got 2 new shows on the network. The first one was with Davey Willett, who you will know from Trexperts Quiz, and that is called Bargain Bin Gamer. Apparently he plays cheap games and comments on them. I have not had a chance to listen yet. Nothing is happening until exams are over. And so, yeah. And then there's also our new Voyager show called The Captain Scout. I have also not had a chance to listen to it. It sounds like it's been very well received.
Thank you very much for tuning into Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Mark White for the awesome show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
And if you'd like to reach out, you can find our network on Twitter at BQN Podcast, or this show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of our BQN podcasts in the Facebook group BQN Collective. On our next episode, we will be talking about the Picard series finale, titled The Last Generation. Till then, we bid you peace and long life.